Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary with a knife video for you. And today I have a very small Spyderco. This is the Spyderco Manbug. Now this one is in a Gomi Super Blue, and we're going to talk about this one in particular, and I'm going to try to fit into this video some comments about these very small knives in general. Spyderco has a number of them. There's like the Ladybug, there's the Manbug, there's like the Cricket, the Grasshopper, there's another one that I'm not thinking of, and then even the Dragonfly, which I have previously reviewed, which is, you know, kind of the largest of all these small knives. It kind of fits into that, you know, insect series from Spyderco. All right, and they're all very small, but very well built and fairly useful little folders. Okay, and these are very popular. I think there are a number of reasons for that. Number one, people who want something like a small keychain knife, if they're big fans of Spyderco, you know, they see something like this and they go, hey, that's cool. I can sort of announce my love for Spyderco even on my keychain. Okay, and a lot of people, you know, we put other stuff on our keychains that we like, maybe some keychain from Peggy's Cove or from some other favorite place. That just happens to be one I saw recently. You know, so I think that's part of this. The other thing is a lot of the very small knives like this are not terribly well built, but when you buy a Spyderco, you know you're getting a reasonable level of quality, which means you know, if you want a small knife, you want a keychain knife, a lot of guys are familiar with other things from Spyderco, they'll pick one of these up. The last group I would suggest to you are people who are Spyderco fans and they go, hey, you know, I'd love to have a pair of two, or I'd love to have something else. I just love Spyderco knives, but some of those knives are maybe outside of their price point. So they pick up some of these smaller knives so they can own a few things from Spyderco because they're big fans and they just find that a lot of their stuff is just a little expensive, and you know, that's fair enough too. Okay, so lots of people own these, have them, use them, really like them, and I certainly think they're handy as sort of a backup utility blade. They're handy for, you know, all those little cutting tasks that you might have to do, and certainly they could fill the role that I often describe myself having knives for. For example, today I've got with me my Tops T-bow, and this is sort of my primary knife today, or I don't know how you would describe it. For any kind of small cutting task, opening mail, stuff like that, I'll take this out. And then my pocket knife is the Browse VR71, okay? So this knife could fill the role of this knife, all right? And I can tell you, I've had this in my pocket pretty well constantly since I borrowed it from a friend. And the purpose for that was I just wanted to carry it all the time and see. And the reality is you don't even know you have it. It really does carry very comfortably, okay? And so that's one of the real benefits of this. If you want to have a knife on you, and the other nice thing about this is you could carry this anywhere. I don't even, you know, it's probably even TSA compliant. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, it might not be because it locks. But even places that kind of frown on you carrying a knife, maybe at a school or a bank or, you know, something like that, you could probably have this in your pocket without too much of an issue. All right, so those are all reasons I think that people buy these and own them and love them. A lot of people really like these knives, and you can tell on, you know, on blade forums or on different, you know, knife sites, when these go up for sale, they often sell right away. A lot of people really like them. So that's a long introduction, longer than I would normally do, but I wanted to kind of address the whole small knife kind of discussion as well. Now, when we talk about a small knife, this certainly is one, and let's go ahead and get into size and weight because that's pretty impressive, okay? So the size on this is 2.5 inches when it's closed, all right? That's 2.5 inches. It weighs only 0.65 ounces, so a little over half an ounce. When it's open, it's 4.5 inches. Okay, and I'm of course excluding the lanyard that's on here. This is not my knife, by the way, so I'm not going to go taking the lanyard off or anything like that. So 4.5 inches open, and it's got a 2-inch blade with basically an inch and 7/8 cutting edge. Now, I will speak a little bit to the particular sprint run that this is. This, of course, is the Gomi Super Blue sprint run, so it's got the blue FRN and it's got the the blade with the super blue core in it, okay? Which is really, really cool, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the blade itself. A couple of quick comparisons. This is a TI3 flashlight from ThruNite. You can see that these are very close in size. Now the flashlight weighs a little bit more, so if you've got one of these flashlights or another one of these small AAA flashlights, you'll have an idea just how light this knife really is. Another similar tool, okay, is the Leatherman. This is the Leatherman Squirt with the pliers, okay? There you go. Now, what I would say about this is, if you're looking for something to put on your keychain, the Squirt to me is too heavy, and even the small little style is fairly heavy compared to this little knife. Okay, so I don't know. For me now, and this is the real big question. If I'm going to carry something dropped in my pocket, I'm probably going to take this, because you're still getting a small blade, but you're getting a lot more utility out of this than this. On the other hand, if I'm going to put something on my keychain, I'd be inclined to go with this because of the weight, and because, you know, sorry about that, excuse me, and because this is a little more well-branded. Like, this looks pretty cool. It's almost like a full-size knife, only miniature, which makes sense then on a keychain, where this is not saying much other than, hey, I like to have tools, okay? This, I would say, drop it in your pocket. This you could theoretically put on your keychain. I'll grab a keychain here just to show you. So there's the fob from my Dodge Journey, and you can see this is quite a bit smaller, and it actually weighs less. So I don't think this is going to weigh your keychain down overly much. Okay, so that's size and weight, and I did want to bring in this as a size comparison because, let's be honest, if you're thinking about carrying something small, I think you've got to consider these mini multi-tools, and this one is about my favorite one. I've tried 3 or 4 of these, and this one is definitely my favorite. For my mileage, I would probably take this over a small knife, okay, just because I've got a small blade in here. And if we compare the cutting edge on these, you can see that it's very close. There's only about 1/4 of an inch more cutting edge on the Manbug. Okay, so for, you know, that extra 1/4 inch, now I sacrifice a 1/4 inch, but I also get a number of other things: screwdriver and file and scissors and a bunch of cool stuff. Okay. So that's my kind of initial reaction to these small blades. If I'm going to carry something this size, it's probably going to be a mini multi-tool, but that's my mileage. You may have a totally different take on it. So now let's carry on and talk about the knife in general. Now that you kind of know my position on it, that I probably won't carry one of these myself, but I think if you want to, hey, it's pretty cool. And I would actually say, you know, if you're not a knife guy at all, or maybe you carry a large multi-tool like a Leatherman Charge or something like that all the time, and you want, now I've got all that utility, this would make a great just drop in the pocket type of tool. The other thing this would be really handy for is, now not this one in particular because the steel is not stainless, but a Manbug or similar size knife could also work in a miniature survival kit that you were building. All right, so those are just a couple of wow. See if I can spit that out. Those are a couple sort of philosophy of use type of thoughts that I wanted to go ahead and share with you before we get into the rest of the review. So now we've talked about that. Let's zoom in on this because it is a really nice looking blade, and that's one of the things that you're getting a lot of with this, that I would say this beats a lot of other options in that sort of second kind of cool department. Now, there we go. So there's the knife. You can see in my hand that it is quite small. The blade here is a blade that has an Agami super blue core. You probably won't be able to see this on the camera, but in person you can actually see that super blue steel right here. And a lot of these, after, this one's fairly new, but after a while, the Agami Super Blue will take a really nice patina, and you'll be able to see that difference a little bit more. In person, and maybe on camera, you can still see it. And it does make this knife really, really cool. And that's one of the things I would say, you know, this is a sprint run. It's got the VG10, I mean, it's got the 420J1 over the Agomi Super Blue core, which is really cool. You know, if you've got this in your pocket and you're showing it to your friends, I think they're going to be like, hey man, that is pretty awesome. Because I don't think, you know, most people, even non-knife people especially, are going to think, hey, that's a really cool blade, okay? And even people who are knife people, who can appreciate the uniqueness of a sprint run, who can appreciate steel, are going to think that Agomi Super Blue is pretty awesome, because it is, okay? So let's go ahead and talk. This blade is kind of a modified drop point. It reminds me of a Delica or Endura or a number of other Spydercos, where you've got this long slope down to the tip. What's interesting about this knife though is the belly. Notice that the belly is basically just at the front of the knife here. So all of this is just straight cutting edge, which is really nice for utility tasks, okay? So it's pretty handy blade shape. I've found it to be that way anyway. The other thing I will say about that Agomi Super Blue is it takes a amazingly sharp edge, okay? Like ridiculously sharp. So, and it holds it, it's gonna hold it really well for you. So great steel, very utilitarian blade shape. Obviously, the limitation on this is going to be the length. This is going to be great for those small cutting tasks, maybe cut a piece of paracord or open some mail. But if you're going to cut down, you know, 100 boxes that you took a big shipment in and you're going to cut down 100 boxes, this might not be the right choice, okay? Probably something a little more robust with a little more length to it is going to be more preferable over this. I think of this as a keychain knife or a backup knife, okay, in addition to something else that you're also carrying. Let's see, full flat grind, I guess you could probably see that. It does have the little spider hole, it does have a very nice thumb ramp. So that's the blade, okay, not much else to say there. Certainly functional, certainly very cool, and a lot of pride of ownership I think with this knife because of the sprint run and because of that cool Agomi Super Blue steel. What about lockup and deployment? Well, it is a back lock, does have that boy dent. This can be, you know, it's very small, so opening this with one hand works, and so does closing it, but it's kind of awkward. You kind of have to work your fingers around there and get a hold of it somehow. Sorry, I'm messing up the focus here. There we go. There we go. So you can see it will work just fine. Like Spyderco's other back locks, I wouldn't consider this a super strong lock. It's not a triad lock or anything like that, but definitely it's going to do the job and at least help to keep that knife from coming closed on your fingers. By the way, there is no finger choil on this, but the rule is, of course, treat every knife like a slip joint, and we'll just leave it at that. All right, so lockup and deployment is just fine. Maybe some people with a certain kind of hand structure or with a lot of practice could spider flick this. Certainly I can barely open it with my thumb without a little difficulty, so I'm not even going to try that. The handle is, of course, the blue FRN, and it is Torx bit construction. There's just one Torx bit here at the front. Let's see, how's it? Yeah, so you can adjust the tension on this knife. You can adjust the pivot here. There's another Torx screw here that's holding that lock in place. All right. This is not a knife that I would imagine taking apart. Okay, I'm just not even going to try to mess with it, but I guess you could if you were really brave. Of course, the FRN is quite grippy, but since we have kind of moved on to the handle, by the way, if you haven't caught on to that, so lockup and deployment is fine, and the handle is, I'll show you the grip there. Basically, it's a 2.5 finger grip. My last finger just kind of fits on the bottom. Thumb goes right into the thumb ramp there, and usually you can wrap your last finger around the lanyard, which does, I think that's a nice little improvement, and you've got a really good grip and a very controlled knife, of course, which you would expect for this size. Okay, I'll try to show you that front ways again, so you can see where these two fingers fit fully and the last one just kind of catches on the end. So unless you'd have to have pretty small hands. I don't have huge hands, and this is like 2.5 fingers for me, so I think that's going to be pretty standard. Now in that roll, it's comfortable. It's not going to be a hard use knife, okay guys? Like, I'm not going to take this knife out to the bush and try to chop down a tree. I'm not going to even take it if I have a project where I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting. I'm going to pick something else, okay? Because 2.5 fingers on a knife, it's gonna, if you do any kind of hard work with this, you're gonna right away notice that tension on those fingers, and it's gonna get uncomfortable fairly quickly. Again, The role of this knife is not to be your primary EDC, it's to be sort of a keychain backup knife, okay, which is fine. So handle ergonomics is totally acceptable and in fact good for what this knife is. Let's back out now. Back out further. There we go. So overall, what do I think of this knife? I think it's a really cool little blade. I can definitely appreciate the cool factor on the sprint run. I can appreciate that, you know, it's sort of a mini gadget. So if you're into like that small stuff, I think this is really cool just because, you know, when you look at it, it's almost like someone shrunk an Endura or a Delica. And it, you know, it's got that cool factor to it where, you know, it almost reminds me of one of those mini handguns or something along those lines. So anyway, really cool little knife. Probably not for my system. Okay, if I was going to carry something this size, as I said, I would pick a small multi-tool. But for a lot of guys, maybe you already carry a multi-tool, maybe you're not that interested in a multi-tool. But I think for a lot of guys who want sort of a small backup knife, something they can pull out around the office, something that no one's going to bat an eyelash at in almost any situation, I think this is a really cool blade. And of course, this one being the Egomi Super Blue Sprint Run has a lot of extra pride of ownership and cool factor that goes along with it. All right, guys, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will talk to you soon.